Hello, and welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have yet another story, another great episode of this show for you all. It's been a bit of an off day. We're coming at you later than usual. Maybe more people are going to be available at this time to be watching this great, awesome, amazing show. I guess future me will know if that worked out or not. So. Why are we coming at you later today? Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've been busy. It's been the first week back in school, and I've been out of this house working since 11 a.m. today, which is early for me. Typically, I have a work from home situation for most of the day, and I'm senior this semester, so my class schedule is peak. It's peak class schedule. I don't have to be at school until 1 p.m. every day of the week, if not later than that. But today it was busy. I had meetings. I had additional work I had to get done, and on top of that, I had a paper I had to get published. So that we'll be talking about very shortly. But yeah. So sorry that we're off schedule today. We've been a little bit off kilter, but it's been rough getting back in the routine. You know how when you get back from a vacation and it's just hard to get back into that motivation to just do work in general, just do anything. That's been like me like all week. It's been rough. So but hey, you know what? I had to get an episode out to you one way or another. I was like, well, I mean, should I do one today or should I just wait until tomorrow? I'm like, no, we'll do it today because the people have got to hear the news. Things have happened. Things are going on in our country. You got to be informed about it. So I've got to put this out for you all. Before we really get into it, make sure to follow me on all the platforms. YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, X, all the places. I just had a huge post that went viral. So I got like 2,500 new followers like overnight. So if this is your first time watching an episode, let me know. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, like I said, follow me on all of them. Share this show with all of your friends and family, all of your loved ones in your life. Let people know that Spin Cycle is where you get all of the good news from, and every episode that I do, I'm always going to be having one of these beautiful shirts on. You never know what fun shirt I'm going to have on for these episodes. So you should watch the show, frankly, for the shirts I have on alone. I mean, I know that I would. But let's get into our very first story and get right into it. We're wasting time here. We're burning daylight. We've already wasted enough of it today. So I'm just happy y'all have been watching right now. So first story. So there was a very unfortunate shooting that happened at a Catholic church in Minnesota. I believe yesterday it happened, either yesterday or the day before, and lots of thoughts about that. But the Minneapolis Mayor actually does not have thoughts or prayers about anything that's happening in Minnesota right now, according to him. So Minneapolis, I keep saying Minnesota as if the entire state is one city. Minneapolis Mayor trashes people for offering thoughts and prayers after shooting. So Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey lashed out at those who called for thoughts and prayers after Wednesday morning's tragic shoot. So it was yesterday. Complaining that it wasn't enough and suggesting that people offering prayers for those impacted were unwilling to work towards concrete solutions. Frey, a Democrat, spoke at a press conference on Wednesday as details of the horrific event were still being made public. At least 2 children were killed and nearly 20 were injured at Education Catholic School. Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church, said Frey. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without fear or risk of violence. He's not wrong. Frankly, he's not. I gotta kind of agree with him there. They should be able to go to school without risk of violence. So the implication, of course, was that something should be done about the guns. That certainly was the implication of it. But as Emily Yanaski pointed out, many of who are not in favor of gun control have proposed solutions to protect schools. Democrats like Frey, who typically favor gun control, have not been interested in those solutions. Quote, almost no one ever just says the reaction should be about thoughts and prayers. Even the conservative Christians with whom Frey disagrees on gun control believe in policy solutions of their own. Arming teachers, tighter security, etc. He just doesn't like those solutions, which is fine, she posted. But it's really time to retire this cheap hit on people of faith, especially in cases where they're actually the direct targets of an attack. She added, those little kids don't believe the prayers they were saying today shield them from earthly tragedy or excuse them from doing good works. Frey can make this point about guns just as well without this tired jab. I don't blame her. I also totally agree with that. So here's the deal, right? Anytime we talk about gun control in the United States, it's a balancing act, right? We actually have a lot of balancing acts in our United States legal system. You can go and look them up yourself and see what all those are. But what I mean by balancing act is with a lot of laws that we have in our country, we have a balancing act between the implication of the law and the people it's going to hurt. So, for instance, I'm really familiar with zoning laws, for example, or historic preservation laws, right? I'm a professional planner. I'm a professional city planner. I know a lot of this from my background in school, which I'm in my last year right now, thankfully. But a lot of times with zoning laws, local governments balance the amount of people that will be protected by, say, for example, not allowing certain historic buildings to be torn down, right? So they're balancing the people who are going to be impacted by that law, which are going to be developers, private landowners, right? People looking to make a profit. And then the character of the area. So, for example, you have a neighborhood, there's a beautiful old historic house in the neighborhood, right? The city wants to protect houses that were built pre-1900. So they say, hey, you can't alter the outside of your home if it was built pre-1900. The balancing act there is that private landowners, people who actually own that property are going to be impacted, right? They're not going to be able to do anything they want to do to their property. They're not going to be able to bulldoze if they want to and build a high-rise on top of it, for example. But the implication is that balance is that the character of the neighborhood is preserved, that people living in that area can continue to see a beautiful piece of historic architecture in their neighborhood, and just our American heritage is preserved in that site, even if it's not like a museum, for example. So it's the balancing act. It's the same thing for gun control, right? Anytime you impose limitations on the firearms that people can purchase legally, you're always going to hurt people who are legal gun owners, who are acting under the law in a legal manner with their firearm, in the name of protecting tragedies like this. So the question that we say as conservatives is, how far are we willing to go to protect that, right? To protect safety. We've seen time and time again that even when we put guardrails on what firearms people can purchase, they find a way to get them anyways, right? So there's a lot of times when school shootings have happened where the person who has the gun does not own it, right? It's not their gun. It's their parents' gun. It's a gun they got illegally. It's a gun that they got from a friend of theirs, right? They were never supposed to have possession of the gun in the first place. But then we hear, hey, we need to have gun control in this country, right? We need to limit the amount of guns that people can purchase or make handguns illegal or make firearms illegal, whatever it is that you hear. The implication from that is you're hurting every single gun owner out there who owns a gun legally, right? And is acting lawfully with their firearm. And you really don't do anything to stop the issue, because after that crime was committed, right, that person was never supposed to have that gun in the first place, right? It was their parents' gun, it was their friend's gun, right? They were never supposed to have that firearm. So it doesn't really do anything. It's kind of the same situation here where we say, hey, we need to have common sense gun control. But what does that really mean? So I think it's being alleged right now that the shooter in this situation was a transgender individual, okay? So let me put it to you this way, right? The left is so quick to point out that, hey, the guns are the issue, right? We're the only country in the world, they'll say, that has gun issues, right? Now, the guns aren't the issue. I'm here to tell you that the guns aren't the issue, right? Guns don't just shoot themselves. People shoot guns. And I'm here to tell you that people who go and commit crimes are mentally ill, okay? Right? It's just end of story. So, the right, the conservatives are trying to point out that this was a trans individual, trans people are mentally ill people commit crimes, right? And in that way, degrading transgender people as a whole. Now, I'm not here to degrade transgender people. I think that's a whole nother topic, but I'm not going to sit here and deny that if you think that you're the opposite gender, that you're not entirely mentally sane, right? Now, the question leads us to, should mentally ill people be able to own a gun? And it's a hard answer, right? I'm not here to say a solution, but I want you to think about it this way. Where do we draw the line of what's a mental illness, right? Is autism a mental illness? Is ADD a mental illness? Is OCD a mental illness, right? What mental illnesses, right, can you own a gun under, and what can't, right? And then who decides that? Because if you say, hey, if you have ADHD and you can't own a gun, that's going to limit like a whole lot of people in this country who are perfectly law-abiding citizens from owning guns. So to go back to this article and this mayor not doing anything about actually doing stuff with weapons, I disagree with the conservatives who think that teachers should be walking around with firearms. I don't think they're qualified to be walking around school with a firearm. I think that teachers are supposed to be in school to teach, not to protect kids if a shooter shows up. That's not in their job description. I think that we should be hiring a lot more retired cops, retired military guys. And I think we should have a lot more people on school campuses that have a firearm on them, mainly as a deterrent, just because you're not going to show up to an area that there's a lot of other people can shoot back at you. That's why schools get targeted so much, because they're gun-free zones, right? That's why you actually don't hear about all that many Christian churches getting shot, because a lot of people there are packing. They're packing heat. So criminals don't tend to like to get shot back at places that they go to. That's why they choose schools. So I'm all in favor for getting more people in schools who have firearms. I don't think they'd be teachers, but I think it's a good common sense thing to do. But if you're not even going to entertain those issues and just simply say, oh, the guns are the issue, we need to limit people getting guns, you're not going to solve any issues. You're just not. And we've seen time and time again that gun control really isn't lawful in the United States. It's very hard to determine, how do we regulate firearms. Typically, the Supreme Court has ruled that, hey, you can't stop people from getting a gun. Second Amendment, right? So that's all I got to say about that. Let's go move on to our next story. That was kind of a long-winded section, which I'd be a little bit quicker. So CDC Director Susan Monarez? Monarez? Is that how you say it? Monarez? Monarez? I'm going to go with Monarez. That sounds right. Refuses to be fired as other officials call it quits. So longtime government scientist Susan Monarez, who's a veterinarian, by the way. She's not an MD. She's a veterinarian. That's her formal training. Just putting that out there. Is refusing to leave her position as director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, that prevents diseases against humans, by the way, after the Department of Health and Human Services announced she had been removed from the role less than a month after she was sworn in. Attorneys Mark Zaid and Abby Lowell said they are representing Monarez and claimed she, quote, has neither resigned nor yet been fired. The attorneys released a statement on social media claiming HHS and Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are weaponizing public health for political gain and putting millions of American lives at risk. Someone's going to need to tell me how lives are exactly being put at risk because of what Robert Kennedy is doing, what Bobby's doing, right? Someone's going to need to sit me down like I'm 5 and explain that to me, because everyone's saying, oh, he's going after vaccines, right? No, he's not. You can still go and get any vaccines you want to, right? I've heard nothing that Robert Kennedy's done that is at all preventing people from going out and doing whatever it is they normally like to do, right? And frankly, if your opinion on getting a vaccine or not is relying upon Robert F. Kennedy solely being Health and Human Services Secretary, I think that you need to do some more research on what you're putting in your body first. So my position is always, if you want to go out and get a vaccine, go out and get a vaccine, right? Don't let me stop you. But we should have all the information. Anyways, I digress, right? So the Washington Post reported that sources within the CDC who spoke on the condition of anonymity said HHS leaders, including Kennedy, sought to get Monarez to commit to rescinding approvals for certain COVID-19 vaccines. When Monarez did not immediately commit, she was told by administration officials that she must resign or she would be fired. Quote, as her attorney's statement makes abundantly clear, Susan Monarez is not aligned with the president's agenda of making America healthy again. White House spokesperson Kush Dasi said in a statement, quote, since Susan Monarez refused to resign despite informing HHS leaders of her intent to do so, the White House has terminated Monarez from her position within the CDC. During Monarez's confirmation hearing, she expressed support for vaccines and told lawmakers she has, quote, not seen a causal link between vaccines and autism. I don't know how anyone in the year 2025 can possibly say that they don't see any link between vaccines and autism, considering that our vaccine rate has shot through the roof and our autism rate has also shot through the roof. I understand that there could be correlation, not causation, but I'm just saying, right? People say that as an excuse to not investigate it, right? We should investigate. We should know for the truth, right? I've just got to say this. I'm a big fan of the no BS attitude that this current administration is taking to people within it. I'm just fine with that. The last Trump administration had a whole lot of people who were giving the president a lot of BS acting in their positions, and the administration just went along with it. Right? This time around, it appears that they're like, hey, if you're not all with us, get the hell out of here, right? We'll pick someone else. And I really don't have an issue with that. The CDC is directly underneath HHS. This isn't like a necessarily like a Federal Reserve position where they're supposed to necessarily be a super independent agency that the White House doesn't have a whole lot of say-so over what they do purposefully. Right? And honestly, if you have conflicting people with the administration, they should be booted out, right? The director of HHS has taken a clear position that there could be a link between autism and vaccines. Thus, we should do research to see if that is in fact true. Or if that's not true, we should do research to figure out what is causing the rate of autism increases in this country. When you have someone within the government who is subordinate to the director of HHS saying that, they don't see a relationship between vaccines and autism, that kind of discredits what HHS is trying to do, right? That would be like a first-year employee saying to their boss who has decades of experience what they should and shouldn't be doing, right? So, sure, get rid of her, right? Get her out of here, right? We don't need dead weight in the administration for the next 4 years. We don't. We need people who are actually going to act and actually going to do their jobs. So I have no issue with this. I think they should get a real doctor to be running the CDC, frankly. I don't know how a veterinarian made her way all the way up to being the director of one of America's largest public health services, but that's just me. No shade to veterinarians, but if you're a veterinarian, you went to school to be a doctor for animals, not a doctor for humans. So I don't know how we could possibly say that you're qualified to be running a health organization that has to do with humans. Now, I don't know if there is a position within the CDC that has to do with diseases that spread amongst animals. She'd probably be perfectly qualified to work there, but get a real doctor in there, right? So, anyways, let's go and move on. So we have a story from Blaze Media. So Trump is suggesting that the Republican convention before the midterm elections. So President Donald Trump issued a novel suggestion for a pivotal midterm elections at the same time the Democrats are considering a similar option. The president said that his policy successes have been so great that they merit a national convention to celebrate before voters return to the ballot box in November 2026. Quote, the Republican Party is doing really well. Millions of people have joined us in our quest to make America great again, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Quote, we want every aspect of the presidential election based on the great successes we are having. We are poised to win big in the midterms, he added. He cited a recent campaign finance report that showed the Republican National Committee defeating the Democrat National Committee by a massive margin in donations. The RNC ended up with nearly $81 million in cash in June, while the DNC only had $15.2 million. So $81 million for the RNC, 15 for the DNC. That's a big difference. Quote, the results are incredible, a record pace. In the light, I am thinking of recommending a national convention to the Republican Party just prior to the midterms. Yet it has never been done before. Quote, to showcase our tremendous candidates running up and down the ballot and harness the amazing grassroots energy we're already seeing. Several options are on the table for next year, including hosting a large-scale gathering before the midterms, a spokesperson for the DNC said. So the DNC is thinking about doing the exact same thing, funny enough. I think that they should do a Republican convention before the midterms. I think they should have it at Trump Tower. I think they should. Or I think they should have it in Mar-a-Lago. Or I think they should have it at the White House, for that matter, right? How awesome would that be? So I don't have an issue with this at all. I think let's do it. Let's have some really great speakers show up. Let's get our candidates out there and promoted to the public. And let's get talking about what this administration actually has done for the American people and how much better people are off right now than under Joe Biden, right? I'm going to be interested to see how these midterms are going to go, right? I'm not entirely convinced that it's a slam dunk for Republicans at this point, just considering the current state of the economy, right? You know, the Trump administration has been bragging a lot about the surplus of money that the Treasury Department has been bringing in from tariffs. But as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen enough of a change that really warrants, in my opinion, a national thank you for the economy that we have right now. What do I mean by that? I mean that things might be doing better, like the statistics might show things are doing better, but I'm not convinced that people themselves have actually seen enough of a change in the actual money they're bringing home or the actual purchasing power of their dollar to warrant this massive thank you to the GOP for 2026. So I don't know. I think it's a big thing for people, and I think that if Republicans campaign and say, "Hey, look at your paychecks, so you're bringing home more money, right? Do you have more money in your pocket? Do you have more purchasing power in the economy right now? Yes or no?" I think if it were a yes, they'd be doing great. But it's also too far out right now to really say how things are going to be influenced, right? We don't know what 2026 is going to look like yet. We don't know where things are going to be competitive or not. We can't really trust polling yet. We're still a year and a half away from election night. So we'll definitely be here on election night. We're going to do another live stream. I already know it. But it'll be interesting to see, is all I gotta say. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So I hope they do a convention. I'm interested to watch and see what speakers they get. But let's go and move on to our last story. So a judge in Utah, we go back up to the top here. So a Utah judge demands state redistrict congressional map, claims current borders favor GOP. So a judge in Utah has ordered that the state legislature redraw Utah's congressional maps after arguing that GOP state lawmakers gerrymandered the congressional lines in favor of Republicans. This comes as President Donald Trump has pushed for Republican states to redraw their congressional maps, including in Texas. Democratic governors in other states have vowed to redraw their own congressional maps in response. Judge Diana Gibson, who was appointed by Utah Governor Gary Herbert in 2018, serves over the Salt Lake, Summit, and Tulare counties in Utah, and wrote in a 76-page decision that the legislature must pass a remedial congressional map before the end of September. The decision stems from a challenge that was brought by the group known as Mormon Women for Ethical Government. The group, what a strong name. Oh. The group is not affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Well, I should gosh darn hope not. Sometimes known as the Mormon Church, but members of the group often spend time bashing Utah Senator Mike Lee, Elon Musk, and President Donald Trump on social media. You can get a picture of who these women are already, can't you? The group has reportedly removed a member for not being critical enough of conservative opinions, despite church members being a reliable voting bloc for the GOP. I can see the leadership of these women right now. Whole bunch of white women who can't keep their mouths shut. I have a feeling that they point out when people's yards get a little bit too long too in their HOAs. Yeah. So GOP lawmakers plan to appeal the decision and could possibly send the case to the Supreme Court per Fox News. Trump wrote of the decision from the judge on social media, quote, Monday's court order in Utah is absolutely unconstitutional. How did such a wonderful Republican state like Utah, which I won in every election, end up with so many radical leftist judges? As citizens in Utah should be outraged by their activist judiciary, which wants to take away our congressional advantage and will do everything possible to do so. This incredible state sent 4 great Republicans to Congress, and we want to keep it that way. The Utah GOP has to stay united and make sure their 4 terrific Republican congressmen stay right where they are. The challenge from the Mormon Women for Ethical Government from redistricting changes that took place in 2018, where voters passed Prop 4, also known as the Better Boundaries Initiative. The initiative then appointed a commission to oversee a congressional map drawing. However, that drawing was later overridden by the legislature, with Utah politicians now criticizing the state constitution, which reads, quote, no later than the annual general session, which follows the legislature's receipt of the results of an enumeration made by the authority of the United States, the legislature shall divide the state into the congressional, legislative, and other districts accordingly. So here's the map that is in question right here. Here's the Utah map. God, Laura Ingraham, get out of my face. Get out of my face. X. This X isn't working. All right. Well, I'm sorry, folks. You're going to have to just deal with Laura sitting down there at the bottom corner. Maybe I can pull this out a little bit more. All right, so here's the map. I wonder if we can just open this in Twitter. Here we go. Let's just open this in X and take a look at it. So here's the map right here on my screen. It should pop up in just a moment after it loads. Here we go, right here. So here's the proposed map, it appears. And yeah. So I'm not entirely surprised that a Republican state is doing this. I'm not entirely surprised when Democrat states do this either. What I'd like to point out is I tried to recreate this map in a website called Districtor. So this will be linked in the description down below, and this leads very well into my last thing, which talked about my paper that I just recently published online for you all to go and read on my Substack. So I tried my best to replicate how this looks. So this map right here in front of me on this screen is built on top of the 2020 presidential, or excuse me, actually it looks like it was built on top of the 2016 presidential election results, but it's built on top of the 2020 precincts. So it's a little off, but you know, just out of curiosity, let's go and look up 2024 Utah presidential election, and let's just see what happened. So in 2024, Donald Trump won 59% of the vote in the Beehive state of Utah. So 2% more voted for him in 2016. So he did a little bit better in Utah in 2016. So roughly about the same, though, for the purpose of this discussion. So I built this map that looks, I would argue, fairly similar. This top district is probably the most similar of it, but I mean, you can see I just kind of flip back and forth a couple times. You can see they look fairly similar. I guess this this district right here should probably be put in yellow. Let me do that real quick, just so we can have the most accurate numbers. There we go. That makes it a little more accurate. All right. So just to kind of show what these look like, they're slightly off, but I feel for the purposes of discussion, it's pretty good. So I just wanted to see kind of roughly what the estimates were for an election if it were held today in Utah using this map. So essentially, it's a win for Republicans across the board. District 3, which is this one right here, is the only one that could possibly be considered all competitive. It only has about 55% of the votes for Republicans. If you do what probably say, it's probably more like 53. But all 4 districts based on this map are all solidly Republican districts through and through. Now, why do I point this out? Well, 39% of the state is almost 40% of the state is Democrat, right? But yet they have 0 Democrat representation in Congress. So this map is definitely drawn to benefit the GOP. There's no way you could possibly argue that it's not. A perfectly drawn map would probably have 1 Democrat seat and 3 GOP seats, or possibly 2 solidly GOP seats and a Democrat seat and then a competitive seat, so it could go like 50-50. But I think it would be perfectly fair if they had 1 seat that was more Democrat leaning. I guess you could argue that District 3, this one right here in the middle, this kind of teal one here, could be. The other thing I want to point out is I'm not sure if the population has changed all that much, but this teal one here has a lot higher population than all these other ones. This blue one has significantly lower than the rest of them, so it's possible that I just misdrew it, but districts are supposed to be around the same size too. Okay, so the contention that I have, right, and I bring this up in my paper, I'll talk about it in a moment, is that gerrymandering is never okay, right? This never benefits anyone, especially the people in the state. And drawing maps that just entrench politicians, I think just isn't good, right? We're constantly complaining about how old and decrepit our politicians get in Congress, but we never actually do anything about it. And there's no way the term limits are ever going to happen. I don't believe it. So we're saying that, we have 4 outstanding GOP congressmen from the state of Utah right now. Just because they're Republicans, does that mean that they just shouldn't have any competition at all and they should just get to keep their jobs forever, essentially? I personally don't think so. So feel free to argue in the comments if you'd like. But yeah, so the major contention that's happening is I believe that Utah decided they wanted an independent commission to create their congressional maps, which I have my own thoughts on independent commissions. You have to read my paper to hear about all those. But the contention, I think, is that their state constitution says the legislature is supposed to draw it, but then the people of Utah decided that they wanted an independent commission to do it, and there's kind of a toss-up right there. So at the end of the day, I think we need to come together as a country and realize that drawing maps to just benefit our party and our politicians just is not the right thing that we need to do. It's not right for the people of our country. It's not even right for the parties, frankly. It entrenches politicians in their jobs for decades at some points, right? I don't know how you can possibly say that you can be an effective representative when you have literally no shot of losing your seat. Unless, someone fights like super crazy hard and somehow it's super unlikely, right? I have all of the numbers broken down of there's very few of the over 400 congressional seats that we have in the United States right now. Only a fraction, only at 15% of all of the congressional seats in the United States today can actually be considered competitive seats. Very few of them are actually competitive. So the last thing I want to talk about is my paper. You can go and read my paper. I talk about gerrymandering a lot. Its origins, where it came from, and my proposed solution for making states better and making elections better for everyone in this country, which involves having competitive districts across the board as much as possible. And I give specific examples of that. So I suggest you go read my paper. It's about a 15-minute read to get through. It's not that bad. But I think it's super high quality. I worked a long time on it. I think it's worth the read to get into it, learn a little bit about gerrymandering, and maybe have a better idea of, hey, why should we not be advocating to gerrymander states? Because believe me, I'm a Republican. I want Republicans running Congress just as much as the next guy. But at the end of the day, the part of me that wants fairness and wants equality across the board when it comes to elections trumps my desire to have Republicans in control. And I think the issue is that we're seeing right now is that it's benefiting Republicans right now, so a lot of people are for it. But at some point, it will not be benefiting Republicans, and eventually it will be benefiting Democrats. Mark my words, it will be. Everything is constantly a pendulum swing back and forth in politics, right? Just right now, Republicans are the ones who are getting a ton of wins right now, and I hope those wins continue to be perpetuated. And I hope they continue to hold Congress, but I think that they should be able to do it and be competitive about it and really put forward candidates that deserve and get people excited to go out and vote, right? So I suggest you read through my paper. I talk about, like I said, the origins of gerrymandering. I get into that both parties are doing it. Democrats and Republicans both are. And I created some maps. I have specific case examples that I created using this website called Districtor, which I showed just a minute ago with Utah. That's super cool. I highly suggest you go and play around with it. It's super fun. Best of all, everything's sourced. Everything's cited. I have over 30 citations in this paper, and all of my maps are cited as well. So if you want to go and play around, if you're from Pennsylvania or from Missouri, for example, go and play around with the maps that I created. You can pull them up. Here's the map I created in Missouri. And you can zoom in on here and see my proposed, lines that I've drawn for this map. And you can see all the data layers from it. You can see the evaluation. You see the election details from this based on the 2020 presidential or governor elections, or even farther back all the way to 2016 or 2018. Really interesting stuff, in my opinion. I highly, highly suggest you go and take a peek at it. So I think it's worth your time. Go and play around with yourself. Make some of your own maps. If you end up making your own congressional maps, send them to me on Twitter. I'm a huge, massive nerd. I'd love to see them. Go and play around with this website. I know I'm not affiliated with this website at all. I just found it on the internet. I think it's a great tool to use. I'm sure there's other ones out there. This is just the one I decided to use. But please, go read my paper, go share it with people, go subscribe to my Substack. I plan to write other articles in the future. And if you're not a big reader, subscribe to my YouTube. I'm working on putting out a video right now on YouTube where I basically verbalize my whole paper and talk about it on camera versus just, reading the paper with your own two eyes. So if you're more of an auditory listener and you want me to kind of walk you through and explain it to you, maybe add a little bit of extra context as I'm going through it, please go subscribe to my YouTube. My YouTube will be the only place that video goes out on, right? It will not go on Rumble. It will not go on X. YouTube will be the only place for it. The Rumble channel is only for the live streams. Maybe it'll go on Rumble. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. But I'm thinking right now I just want to be on YouTube, just to get more people watching on YouTube. So go subscribe there, and I'll make the announcement whenever that video does come out. But it probably won't be for at least another week or so. I need time to get together. And I want people to go and read it first. So to get your thoughts on it, you can comment. It's all totally free. You can subscribe to my Substack totally for free if you want to. There are paid tiers, I believe. If you feel like supporting me, if you want to support me too, you can send me a tip on Twitter as well. I don't expect it from anyone. I just do this for the fun of it and for the love of politics that I have. But if you are feeling generous, you're more than welcome to do that. I don't have any exclusive content for Twitter or for Substack right now. It's just there and it's available. But if you subscribe to one of the paid tiers, let me know, and I'll figure out something to put out that's just on the paid tiers for you. But I don't plan on doing it until I really have some subscribers there. So, needless to say, thank you very much for watching today. I know this was a bit of an unconventional episode, and we were a little bit off today, but I appreciate you all still showing up here nonetheless. I'll be back here on Tuesday of next week, so I hope you have a great weekend. Let me know what you think of today's episode. Send me a message on Twitter, tweet at me, go comment on my Substack if you enjoyed reading the article. If you have suggestions of other things I should write about, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. I love interacting with you all so much. It's been such an amazing journey to have. We're up to 13,500 followers now, I believe, that I have on my Twitter account. So the audience is growing every day. So like I said, yeah, thoughts on anything I talk about today, let me know what you think. I'm always happy to interact with people as long as they're respectful towards me. If you're going to call me a freaking idiot, I'm going to delete your message. I'm not interacting with that. But if you want to have a thoughtful discussion, send me a message on Twitter. Tweet at me publicly if you want to do that. I'm happy to do it. So whatever works for you. Suggestions on future things I can write about, let me know. I'm always open to them. Make sure you follow me on all the platforms: X, Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Subscribe to my Substack. It's free. You don't have to pay for it if you don't want to. And yeah, I'll be back here on Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Enjoy the nice weather we're starting to get out here. At least in the Midwest, it's cooling down a little bit. I can actually go out on a walk now if I want to, not totally sweat myself through and through. But yeah. So I've been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. I will see you next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, normal time. But with that, peace out.